Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to your StarCraft 2 Daily Report for this Sunday, January 9th, 2011. Let's go ahead and jump right into our first topic, straight from the source. Right on the StarCraft 2 Battle.net homepage, there is a post about the TSL3. Now, if you are unaware, the TSL is the Team Liquid Star League, and it basically pits top StarCraft 2 players against each other. Now, the prize pool for this TSL is $34,000. That is the largest prize pool in TSL history. And the great thing about the TSL is it's going to kind of bring Brood War players and StarCraft 2 players together in a sense, where some of StarCraft 2 players who didn't really follow Brood War are probably going to know some of the top names from the TSL2, which was the last TSL. Some of those players are Tyler, Idra, Maro, Straylock, White Raw, Rhett, Sen, Phoenix, Heypro, Tarson, TT1, and In Control. Now that is just to name a few. The TSL is a 32-player bracket, and it will take place in March and April. The finals will be broadcast live from New York City. Now, if you want to find out more information about the TSL, you can visit teamliquid.net. You're going to learn more about the tournament as well as how you can qualify. Also realize there are qualifiers, qualifying tournaments for the TSL. So if you are looking to do it, you would have to go through the qualifying tournaments as well. And we're actually going to talk about those later in this episode. But moving on from that, looking at the StarCraft 2 homepage, we're going to take a look at the top 200. Now, this is something I plan on doing on a regular basis, maybe not daily, because I don't know if it's going to be relevant enough or if people even want to learn about it or hear about it. But as of today, Sunday, January 9th, 2011, as of this moment, the top 5 players in the top 200 for North America. Number 5 is TT1. Number 4 is FXOP. Tix0, number 3 is DDA, number 2 is Root QXC, and number 1 is Qatari, coming in with 1,475 wins. That, my friends, is a lot of games played. That about wraps it up for our Straight from the Source and brings us right into the next topic, community news. Heading on over to teamliquid.net, there was a post from the Liquipedia staff. If you are unaware, Liquipedia is essentially a StarCraft 2 Wikipedia for Team Liquid, and as such, the name is Liquipedia. Pretty inventive. I actually really like that. But anyways, the post was, again, from the Liquipedia staff, and it was concerning the TSL and Liquipedia. Basically, they wanted to inform everyone that the Liquipedia is going to be filled up chock full of TSL information, from general overview to seeds, qualifications. They're going to be covering the Team Liquid Open, which are the qualifiers for the TSL. And then also there's going to be, you can expect things like matches, statistics of the games played, gallery with videos, artwork, music, everything like that, and pretty much everything. I mean, they're really going to take all that is and revolving around the TSL, and they're going to make sure that the Liquipedia is filled with it. So really neat that all of that information is going to be at one place. So if that's something you're interested in, realize that this site is going to be updated with that. So if you want to follow the TSL very closely, Liquipedia would be your source. Also over on teamliquid.net, you can get some information about the TSL qualifier. Now, the first TSL qualifier has gone by, and we'll give you some information on that. The first TSL qualifier was the TeamSpeak, Team Liquid SC2 Open. First place there was Kaz, winning him $100 and qualifying him for the TSL3. Second place was Ciara, giving him $50 and 100 points towards qualifying for the TSL3. Now, if you're kind of wondering how this whole thing works, basically, the first 3 guaranteed spots for the TSL3 are the winners of the TSL2, first, second, and third place. Those players are Liquid Tyler, Mondragon, and Fnatic Sen. Now, the fourth person who has qualified is Kaz, because he did just win the first qualifying tournament. So basically, if you're interested and if you feel like you could play and perform well in the TSL, then you need to go to one of these qualifiers and you need to come in first place, or you need to perform high enough to get yourself enough points to beat the cutoff for getting into the TSL3. Again, more information about this can be found on the teamliquid.net website, and all those links will be down below for you guys to peruse through the site. Now, moving on over to ForceStrategyGaming.com, there was a recent post from Michael Rose basically concerning how to lose. Now, this isn't a guide onto how to lose, but it's how to lose gracefully. Now, realize that a part of StarCraft is losing matches. This just goes hand in hand with playing the game. You don't win every match. Nobody wins every match. Even the best of the best players only win between 60 and 70%. So that still leaves 40 and 30% of their matches that they lose. And again, realize guess this is on the ladder. You can expect to lose about 50% in tournaments when you're placed with people of equal skill. So basically the article is a nice little discussion about losing in StarCraft and how it's important to really not shun your losses and get upset about them, but embrace them. Look at your losses as a learning experience. Going through your replays is a very, very, very important thing when it comes to improving in StarCraft. The only way you're really going to get better is if you can look at your replays, find your mistakes, and learn how to improve them. So really good article by Michael Rose. Again, that was on the Force Strategy Gaming website, and you should go ahead and check that out. Now moving into the next topic, the Forum Lurker. Over on the StarCraft 2 Battle.net forums, there was a post by Dun Sparrow, and it is a Zerg unit roundup. Now, I'll let you know right now, there is nothing new or insightful in this post, but it is funny, and funny is good, and funny is something that I try to embrace, as much as possible at least. So what can you expect from this? Well, I'll give you a little excerpt, just to have a kind of an idea of what you're in for if you do go ahead and decide to check out the post. So for the Mutalisk, and that's right, he says Mutalisk and not Mutalisk, so already he's off to a good start. Okay, now this is a superpower unit. Mutalisk is your best friend for Zerg because it is the only non-scout unit that is kind of fast. Problem with Mutalisk is it can't win fights, so it's best used to attack thing that can't attack back, like Zealot or Worker. Well, that's very true. If you see Marine, Terran starting unit, run away fast. So that is his summarization of the Mutalisk, and again, I found it pretty comical. If you think it's funny as well, then you should check it out. Heading on over to Team Liquid forums, there was a recent post by Rift, and it's basically a discussion of GOM TV and trying to get people to show up for their events, basically. Now, the summarization is that basically the wrap-up is only 50 people showed up for Boxer's Code S matches, and if you don't know Boxer, well, you should. Very, very, very popular Brood War player. And then apparently only 10 people showed up for Tester's Code S matches. So the point of this forum post is basically a discussion of the GSL and how we're trying to promote it, trying to promote esports in general. And the discussion is, why aren't people showing up? Well, initially this was some really big thing. Is GOM TV doing something wrong? What's the issue? That's basically what the topic at discussion is right now. So, I mean, what are your concerns? What are your thoughts about the GSL, about what GOM TV is doing in promoting their things? Now, a general consensus is the fact that people may not be showing up to these events as much, but the idea that these things are still televised and people are still watching them. GOM TV does televise the events. So with that said, is it really as bad as it seems just because, these things are online? Just because people aren't showing up to the events doesn't mean they're not interested? Or do you think that unfortunately the GSL is losing popularity and it's not going to be able to continue? So yeah, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about the GSL. If you don't know much about it, I will provide the link to that post and you can find out more information about it there. Now moving on to tournament news, there are 5 tournaments taking place tomorrow, Monday, January 10th, 2011. The first 2 are U.S. tournaments, and that is the Sexy and Silver number 14 and the VT Gaming Open series presented by Justin TV. And then we have 3 EU tournaments, the Competo StarCraft 2 Cup number 22, the 4PL SC2 Team Action Cup, and the SteelSeries Go for SC2 December 2010 Finals. So if you are interested in either watching or competing in any of these events, you can go ahead and find some more information below. I do have all those links available in the video description. Now on to the game of the day. Today's game of the day is another game between DIMAGA and BratOk. Now this was a game of the day that was featured yesterday as well. This is, however, game 2 in the series. A really great game between the 2 players. It is on Zelnaga Caverns. It is a shorter game though. It involves some early aggression. So pretty fun and interesting matchup to check out. And I suggest looking at that, and you can find that matchup on our channel. Again, that was DIMAGA versus BratOk, game number 2, and that is on Zelnaga Caverns. And today's tip of the day is going to be concerning expanding. I know a lot of players have issues as to when to expand, how to expand, and what they should be thinking generally about expansions. Well, there's 2 things you should really consider, and there's 2 things you should really keep in mind. The first of which is that you do always want to make sure that you are at least on par with your opponent. If your opponent has 3 bases and you have 1 base, then you're probably going to lose the game. Realize that StarCraft is such a game of economy. It really revolves around having a strong economy. The player with the stronger economy can afford more units, they can afford more upgrades, and as such, they're going to win any likely battles that take place. So, when to expand? Well, there's 2 primary points you should consider expanding. The first of which is, if you see your opponent expand, that's also a good time to expand. Now, the great thing about taking this mentality is that you don't really ever have to think about it. You just have to scout your opponent, you see them expand, and then boom, drop down an expansion. The other point is when you attack. Attacking is also a really great time to expand. You'll see a lot of professional players do this. The second they move out their units for an attack or for some aggression, they automatically drop an expansion. And the reason is that with your attack, you're hoping to buy yourself a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, depending on however long the battle takes. And in that time, you're able to get up an expansion, saturate it, and then defend it as well. So then you go back to your base after the battle. Whatever the outcome of the battle is, you do some damage, you lose all your units, he loses all of his units, and then barely defends. However the battle plays out, you still go back to your base with an advantage because you have that expansion up, it's saturated, and you've got units to defend it as well. So that's generally, in general terms, how you should look at expanding, and hopefully that helps you guys out. And lastly, we have the question of the day. Now, if you have a question of the day that you would like answered, you can go ahead and send those to me at force@forcestrategygaming.com. Just make sure you title the subject of the email question of the day. Now, today's question comes from Master of Wind and Copa, and his question is, I know that scouting is a very important skill in StarCraft 2, but even more important to the Zerg, since the Zerg are a reactionary race. They need to know what the other player is doing, e.g. when do you make drones, when do you make units. Now, I'm a Zerg player, and I do scout, send a drone in, sacrifice an overlord, look for proxies or hidden expansions. Are there any other tips for scouting in the early to late game? Well, Master of Wind and Copa, in terms of scouting, you're right, it is very important and it is essentially crucial as Zerg. Now, what you can do for scouting, well, some general tips are, clamping your opponent's base with overlords, having an overlord kind of on either side in a safe spot. This is going to allow you to see any drops coming. You can also, depending on the map, position it in a good spot so that you can see the mineral patch so that you know when they expand. Now, aside from that, the obvious things are using your creep, spreading the creep. That's something you definitely want to do. The further you spread out the creep, the more vision of the map you have. Grabbing DIMAGA towers, that is crucial as every race, but again, realize as Zerg, the more scouting information you have, the better off you are. Something else to really consider too is the fact that speedlings and mutalisks are both scouting tools. They are both incredibly fast units. They can get into and out of bases and expansions very quickly, and this should be used to your advantage. If you're going for a speedling muta build or speedling baneling muta, whatever it is, you can use your mutalisk to check the base really quick. Pick off a unit or two, an SCV or two, pick off a supply depot, kill a couple probes, whatever, and then leave the base. But the real advantage is that you got into their base, you saw what they had, and the same thing can be said for Zerglings and checking expansions. Or if someone leaves their base wide open, you can do the same thing. Send a Zergling into their base, check what's going on, see what units they have, what buildings they have, and then go ahead and leave quickly. So the major tips are using those overlords, checking the areas for possible drops, using speedlings and mutalisks, using Zerglings to scout expansions, grabbing DIMAGA towers, and spreading your creep. So thanks, guys. Again, this has been the StarCraft 2 Daily Report for Sunday, January 9th, 2011. Stay tuned for the continuation of this series, and that should be tomorrow. Also, I wanted to wrap this show up by letting you guys know that I am looking currently for a talented artist for Force Strategy Gaming. We have quite a few journalists for the website, but I am looking for someone who's capable of doing some artwork. Basically, if you're really good with Photoshop and you have a nice eye for visually pleasing things, right off the bat, I'm looking for someone to do an introduction image as well as a segue image for the different segments of the show. So for the community news, the forum lurker, how right now I just have the StarCraft 2 image and then basically the word saying what the segment is. Well, I'm looking for a nice nice lettering and nice background image for each of those segments. So if you're a talented artist and you'd be interested in doing something like this, go ahead and get in contact with me at force@forcestrategy.com. And thanks again, guys. Keep watching and keep owning.